Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Anthony Orr, who is the Nelson County School Superintendent for our Ask the Superintendent segment. And we are doing this immediately following spring break.
Yeah.
So it's coming towards the end of the school year.
It's coming on us
theory.
quickly. It's coming on us quickly, but I'm just excited to be in my dress-up clothes again finally for one of these tapings. We had to do them in casual clothes because of days out of school for so long.
That's
it's
right.
nice to be back in session.
That's good. That's a good thing. And actually, we're recording this on April 7th, and we are less than 2 months, if everything stays as it should, from graduation, because graduation's set, right?
Very excited about the announcement. Decision was made by the school board the week before spring break that we will graduate both our new high schools, or both our high schools, on June 6th. So Nelson County High School will graduate at 5:30 at the school, and later that evening at 7:30, Thomas Nelson will have its first ever graduation. So we're excited to get to start some new traditions there, and it'll be a new thing for the community to have two Nelson County schools setting their graduates out into the world on the same evening, and we're looking forward to that. I'm sure parents are looking forward to it as well. We can finally get those invitations printed for graduation and get those out so everybody can come and join us.
And this will be the first graduation at Thomas Nelson?
That's correct. Last year we did not have seniors in the building, and so those guys have moved up, and we'll get to see them walk across their own stage this summer.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And I know some people at Nelson County High School might be excited because, like, when you pick a mass to go to, if you pick the early one, you know you're going to be out by a certain time because this one. So they know that it won't be too long.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's one of the things that we've talked about with two graduations. We do want to have those on the same night, and we feel like that's going to work out pretty well for the community. It keeps us from stepping on anybody else's graduation time, since we've got 3 systems in the county.
Right.
So that's helpful, but we'll have to keep things moving at a good pace. But typically at Nelson County High School, when we were graduating all of our seniors at the same time, the graduations for the last few years have been around an hour and 15 minutes. So we feel like giving a couple of hours will give time for the graduations to occur, and for those of us that will be participating in both graduations, time to move to the next one at Thomas Nelson. And we recognize as well, in a community like Nelson County, we're going to have a lot of folks that will want to go to both graduations and have good reason to be there. So we're glad to provide that opportunity.
Okay, great. So graduation and the final day for students set for June 6th.
That's right. All of our students will go ahead and finish on June 6th. And we've had certainly a lot of days that we've had to make up throughout the course of the spring with all of the bad weather. And we may get more bad weather yet, with flooding always a potential for us. I was kind of holding my breath over the weekend to make sure that we wouldn't have trouble as we came back to school from spring break from all of the rain. Right. But the way the board has set things up, we will be able to finish on June 6th. The legislative action that was taken just a few days ago relative to us taping this has made that possible, and we feel confident about setting that last day. So we're good to go. Our staff will need to make up some days, but we're going to provide opportunities throughout the course of the rest of the semester for staff to be able to work their time off, and we sent directions to all of our principals about that actually just today, so they'll be working with their teachers and other staff members to get that worked out.
Right, so some of the personnel may actually stay a little bit longer than this.
Some of them may be staying longer, but we're trying to be flexible. We know that everybody, not just parents and community members, but our staff as well, have tried to make plans for the summer. So we're going to set up some innovative ways to get that work done, make sure that it's focused on good things to support what kids need and what teachers need, but very likely get that time worked in before we would have to keep them past June 6th. So we're hoping to kind of wrap the whole school year up and get everybody's loose ends taken care of that way.
Okay. Now also, as we're doing this in April, the budget is a big issue that the legislature is working on this year. And of course that impacts the schools significantly.
It does.
What are you hearing about that?
It does. Well, this is actually the time that we in the schools are working on our staffing, which is a big part of our budget for next year. It's really about 82% of our budget in any given year. And so that's part of what we've been working on at our level. But it's true, the legislature looks to have a pretty good bill moving towards a signature with the governor, so we're excited about that. It includes some increased money for what we call the SEEK Fund in the next couple of years, which would actually work out to be about $225,000 additionally for our next school year, the 14-15 school year, and then another $315,000 in the year following that. That actually works out to be, that $225,000 figure works out to be about the cost of a 1% pay increase that we expect to be mandated for our staff. So that's actually been a late change, that the amount of money provided by the increased budget for education would actually match the amount that's been mandated for the pay raise. Additionally, originally it wasn't going to work out quite that way, so we've seen some good compromise there that is still good for teachers and good for our district, but it also keeps us on the right side of the balance sheet, and so we appreciate the compromise that allowed that.
Yeah, I think we have spoken before about the funding. Of course, it's not all funding from the state that you use. You have local county tax as well,
right,
and receive some federal funding.
Right.
Is the largest portion, I think you mentioned before, is actually from the local tax. Is that correct?
Actually, it breaks down to be for the general fund, which is where we pay for the day-to-day operations of the school district. That works out to be about 60% from SEEK funding.
Okay.
And then about 40% comes from local money, and then a smaller amount comes from federal funding. So, but that's a proportion that has been shifting significantly, even in just the last 4 years. About 4 years ago, it was closer to 70% of the budget that came directly from state dollars. So, as we look at how the funding picture is trending, our local community is bearing a heavier part of that burden every year. And even while we appreciate the additional help from the state level, we'll still be looking at very tight budgets for our classrooms and for our schools and the local community. We haven't gotten that far in the budget process yet, but as we go through the summer, we'll be looking at the tax rate that would be set in August or September. And so we'll be coming back to say, here's how things look, and you know, even though there are more new things, better support is what I should say in the state budget for even instructional supplies, for technology. One of the things that we're looking forward to in the course of the next couple of years is really increasing the speed of our computer access as we have more and more students and teachers using our infrastructure, using our Wi-Fi, using our networks. There's a lot more traffic, and so we need bigger lanes of the highway for that traffic to travel.
Right.
So we're going to get some support for that. Preschool funding was increased somewhat by increasing the thresholds for poverty funding. So that's good for our families and will help us with kindergarten readiness. One of the things that we've talked about repeatedly is we know the more kids we can educate in preschool and the better we can educate them in preschool, then the better prepared for college and career those kids will be when we get them graduated, 13, 14 years later.
Right. So the better pace you have, the easier it is to move them along later on.
Absolutely.
Now, you were saying with technology, is that becoming a larger line item or expense every year, or is that kind of staying the same? Because there's always some new device that people have access to. And do students, are they able to utilize their own smartphones, or do they get something provided?
It's a combination of both of those things. We try to come at it from a couple of different directions. First thing is that we do have to have that district level infrastructure. So when we look at our networking, we have to have the backroom closet equipment to support all of our networks. So that's been part of what we've worked on and spent some money to do, is to make sure that we have Wi-Fi in all of our buildings and make sure that the Wi-Fi has the capacity to accommodate both equipment that's provided by the schools and equipment that's brought in by students. Folks may remember that 2 or 3 years ago, the board changed policy so that secondary students, high school students in particular, can bring in their own devices with Wi-Fi access and be able to use those on our networks. And so that has helped us in some ways because now we've got more technology available for more kids in the classroom as a result of that. But it's also been something that we've had to accommodate as we have more kids and more devices jump on that network. But we also have provided our own computing devices. We are becoming more and more a Google Chromebook district. It's been a great opportunity for us to get kids working on things they're interested in, and they are able to collaborate on individual documents throughout the classroom. I was in a classroom, it's been a few months since I actually was in this classroom, but I know it's happening in a lot of our classes where teachers giving notes, and instead of kids taking those notes on their traditional notebook and pencils, they're actually taking notes using their Chromebooks, but they're taking notes on a single document so that you may have 30 kids that are working on the same note sheet so that everybody gets all of those different perspectives to study and take a look at as they prepare for their assessment. So we see some really...
So it's collaborative.
Yeah, it is.
It's more collaborative.
It very much so. We see some really cool things going on like that, but those things do cost money. The good thing about the Chromebook is it's a pretty inexpensive device, much less expensive than the traditional desktop computer that we would normally have bought. That's one way that we've been able to stretch the technology monies that we get much further than we had been able to a few years ago.
Fantastic. Well, again, I'm talking with Anthony Orr, who is a Nelson County School Superintendent, for our Ask the Superintendent segment. And again, graduation, final day for school is going to be June 6th, so you look forward to that.
Very much.
Yes, and seeing how that all comes along. Anything else that we need to touch upon with what's coming up with the schools?
I think right now we're just kind of digging in and planning on finishing out the year strong as we get ready for K-Prep assessments this spring. And we've got everybody back in buildings, and I think we're going to be able to establish that momentum and rhythm that I've been talking about missing with the snow days. So we're excited about being able to just come to school and get the work done.
Sounds good. So hopefully we'll be right on track.
Absolutely.
This has been Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.